Blake. What a nice surprise.
Do you have room for one more lost soul?
Of course.
What happens to him now?
Hello and welcome to the Quantum Leap Podcast. I'm Albie and I'm here with Matt Dale, and we are so very lucky today to have with us the captain from A Little Miracle, Melinda McGraw. What's it like to be the captain of that episode?
Hello, it's awesome. It's awesome to be the captain. I mean, she was a very young captain.
Thank you for coming on. You have been my holy grail of guests to get for the show for so many years now. I think about 7. So I'm very, very happy and excited to have you on. For us Quantum Leap fans, we like to watch A Little Miracle every year, and we do another podcast about it. I think we have a 9-hour podcast so far about this episode with all the different people, creatives and actors.
That's true.
Interviews from people, and it just became a Christmas tradition. So we're so excited to have you on because you're the main star of the episode. So before we talk about A Little Miracle and your experience with Quantum Leap, can you let us know a little bit about how you got the acting bug, how you got in the business, and your early career before Quantum Leap?
So I am the youngest of 3 girls, and we were started life overseas. My dad worked for the government, and there were no movies and no television. So all we did was little plays and stuff like that. So I was always really loved theater and putting on plays. I was more of a writer, really, and I kind of thought that's what I would do. But then when I went to college, I kind of found, maybe because I've been doing it for a while, I really kind of fell in love with it. And then I thought, oh, darn, I think I have the acting bug. And I knew it wasn't going to be easy. But I decided, and I was going to Bennington College, liberal arts college. And I decided if I wanted to be an actor, that I really wanted to do it, I'd go to a conservatory. So I actually auditioned for some English acting schools, Lambda, Central, and the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, not thinking I'd get in, but thought, well, maybe I'll go to grad school, but maybe if I get in, and I got a notice from the Royal Academy to try again the next time, and I got in. So I left college and I moved to London. I was 19, I think, maybe almost 20. And I went to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. And there was another North American girl, Marguerite McIntyre, who's a wonderful actress, actually. And then there were 6 other women. They used to take 8 women and 13 men. And so, played mostly English roles, learned those dialects, and studied movement and, was classically trained. We did some modern, American, but it was really Stanislavski based studying as well. But we did a lot of I trained for the theater. I wanted to be really trained. And so that was a great experience. Some of my classmates, Clive Owen. I don't know if you know, if you've ever heard of anyone named Ray Fiennes.
Wow.
A couple times above me. Sean Bean had just left. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Fiona Shaw had just left. Juliet Stevenson, Ken Branagh had been there right before I got there. It was just crazy. And I just was steeped in that world, and I ended up staying, and I got my first job with a company called Cheek by Jowl with another actor who was also at RADA with me named David Morrissey, who was playing Orlando. We did 12th Night, and I was Mariah, and we toured for a year around England and ended up playing the equivalent of off Broadway. I guess you would say it's the West End, but so that was my first job, and I learned bus and truck, kind of one night, one night in one place. We'd set up the set, do the show, break it down, go to the room above the pub, spend the night, leave the next morning in the van, and go to the next place. So it was a great way to learn, the ins and outs of the hard work of theater. And anyway, I ended up staying in total about 7 years in London, and I was very lucky, and I did a lot of theater and some American things. I was in the West End with a comedy called The Foreigner. I was directed by Nicholas Heitner in a play. So a lot of theater. And then I got a show for PBS of a play, a Clifford Odets play. And so we did that. And I just thought it was so much more challenging because it was something I'd never learned before, doing an episode on camera. So I found it was really challenging. So I kind of thought, well, maybe I should go back to the States, and there was a lot more then in the States on camera, and give it a go. And so I moved to New York for a year. I just auditioned. I was waiting tables, and I had been, doing well. So I really kind of had to start all over again. And then I was on hold for something out in LA, and I didn't get it, but I thought, I'm just going to give that a shot and see what happens. So I came out and auditioned. I got a play out here. And then the first job I booked was A Little Miracle,
Wow.
Quantum Leap. And that is how I got my Screen Actors Guild card. Is my first job. I knew nothing. I barely knew what a mark was. And Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell taught me everything to get me through everything. They just took me under their wing. Scott would reach his hand under frame to pull me onto my mark slowly during a scene. And I remember the first time we shot our first thing, and the director said, "Great, let's go inside." And I started walking away, and Scott said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "He just said to go inside. He means coverage. He means like we did the master. Now we're going to do the." I had no idea, nothing. But, the role was very theatrical in a way. And so when I went in and I auditioned, I broke into that song and I started singing, Bringing in the Sheaves. And then, at the top of my lungs. And I think that maybe that theatrical, just risk taking is what got me the part.
Good. So that was you singing then?
Oh, yeah.
Because that was impressive.
Yeah, very, very well done.
Well, I mean, I just think she was so pure. She's just this choral director who just filled with Jesus's love. And like, this is her mission. Like, she was so pure. So anyway, I was so excited that because I loved the show already, but that was my first like American job. It was great to get that. I still had to wait tables for a while longer, but
you can watch yourself on the TV at the place you're waiting tables while you're doing it. Yeah. While you're filming that episode, and it's your first American television acting job, you get in your SAG card. Are you like deer in the headlights, or did you have time to think about your character and backstory and different things while you're doing that episode?
Yes. I mean, I just, had done some of that work for the audition, that like who I thought she was. And she was kind of, maybe from upstate New York, and, had maybe not the best family, wanted to make up for it, and, help other people less fortunate, that she had found her way through the church and she wanted to just do her best, and was very conscientious and just joy filled. I think that, she wanted to spread joy, and that was like her mission, and was very outraged at injustice, and, felt quite protected by the love of God. I just think she was like a happy warrior, is kind of how but no, I mean, it was, oh my gosh, I was a deer in the headlights in the sense that everything was new, sitting around, joking around in between, having someone always, touching up my makeup, having a little director's chair to sit in between that said cast on it, and a dressing room. And, in the theater, you do your own makeup. Sometimes you share, I had my own dressing room stuff. I never had anyone who, maybe someone would help me with my wig or something, but, it was definitely very different. But the biggest difference was, of course, understanding what different shots were, lengths of lenses. And that's where, Scott and Dean were incredible, and Charlie Rocket, rest in peace, Charlie Rocket, as well, who was so funny, but also really soulful. So yeah, the three of them, I mean, I just listened. It's like big ears, and I was very, thank goodness they were kind, because I was, vulnerable.
I guess one of the other major differences between theatrical acting and TV acting is that preparation for a scene, where in the theatre you're doing all the experimentation and everything up front and then going out in front of the audience. In TV, it seemed to be more scene by scene, getting to do that kind of rehearsal and then go live. Did you get much of an opportunity to do that? I don't know what Michael Watkins was like as a director. Did you get a chance to kind of play around?
Michael Watkins, I don't know if you know this, is the first thing he ever directed.
Wow.
We knew it was the first Quantum Leap. Didn't know it was his first direct. Wow. So
Yes.
did you lean on each other a little bit? As sort of...
So he was taking a risk on me for sure. I was definitely much younger than the role was written for a 35-year-old woman. And I was 25, I think 26. And I was much more theatrical, I think, in a way, but he was so great at the end. So he was helpful. We got to rehearse, he knew that it was new for me too. And so he gave me some time to figure things out. And usually when you're doing television, it's very fast. So a lot of the rehearsing is you and the actors talking and meeting, in the makeup trailer, or like on the side, because the director's busy helping set up shots. Then the director will come over and you'll have a minute, but a lot of it is, if there's anything, before that. And then when you go on your marks, you walk it through to find out what works, what kind of flow works out. But I listened to their ideas. I didn't have too much that was different from what was already either blocked or what the ideas they had. I watch it now and I can see how I'm a little mindful of the camera, of not turning too much, or, I can see that I was green, but I think my mind was on the roll. So it was ended up being okay, I hope. But so it was just so much fun. I just remember it being a total blast. I loved it.
Working with Charles Rocket, and could you tell us a little bit what that was like?
He was a huge intellectual, really, who, all three of them were, but Charlie, I don't know, he was just incredibly well-read, intensely funny, a little hyper, really supportive, just super fun, just really fun to be around, really inventive. Really good actor. He was just a really good actor and super sweet. And, he told me the story about what happened at Saturday Night Live. And, I was gone. I was in England. I missed some of that. So he was kind of filling me in on that cultural moment of, for your listeners, if you don't know, he accidentally swore live and was canned for it. It was back before, I don't know if someone missed the delay or before delays, or, I'm not sure what happened, but he was just incredibly kind and charismatic. And we stayed friends. We stayed friends for a long time. Yeah, it was really nice. And I would run into him all the time in auditions and stuff like that. So, yeah, he's a great guy.
I just watched the episode again, A Little Miracle, with my mother and my daughter, and my mother said you did really good.
Oh, thanks, Mom.
I watching it this time, I had a thought, because you and Scott Bakula's character are trying to Scrooge. You're trying to trick him into going through his past, present, and future. At the end, it seemed like, well, you got married, had 3 kids. That was the future. And when he came back at the end of the episode, you seemed to be really affectionate towards him. But when do you think that started for your character? Like, were you just trying to trick him at the beginning, or did your character always have like a special feeling for him?
Oh, no, I think she wanted redemption for him, and saw the good man in him from the beginning. Yeah.
Very optimistic character.
But it also, the heart wants what the heart wants. I think it was a chemical thing. I mean, I think it was like, one of those. That's how I played it anyway. I love at first sight. Oh, I better cover this and get away from this guy. And then like, oh, if only he could be redeemed. He's not redeemable. But if I could, if he really could redeem himself, you know.
You did amazing with those doe eyes in the episode with just emoting that, you know, we can kind of just feel what you were doing.
I have a question. So did you ever think she was like manipulating him, you know, for some other reason that wasn't a high-minded reason?
I thought it was manipulation to save the mission, I think. And, you know, the plan with Pearson, Scott Bakula's character, to trick Michael Blake. So I was a little confused where the tricking him turned into the romance. So it definitely happened, but I was just wondering, you know, how much of it was real or genuine on her part.
It felt like quite a natural progression. Sorry.
Well, I think that she keeps it, you know, when someone's dangerous, you're not going to let yourself go there, especially a girl like this, I think. But I think if there was ever an inkling, any little inkling, and also I think seeing him vulnerable when he starts to wobble, it's like, oh, I knew it. I knew it. You know, let's see how far he can crack, you know. But I think there's something though about, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you know, but when he shows up at the door, how adorable and hot is he looking? Pretty hot. I mean, there's Charles Rocket. You know what I think is so funny? Have you guys ever noticed what happens with his hair at the end?
I don't think
it just completely messes up between shots, basically.
One shot, totally messy, and then the next shot, it's like Superman. It is hilarious. It's my favorite little, like, I don't know, it's not an Easter egg, I guess, but it's just, oh my gosh, it's one of those continuity things that really should make one of those reels because it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But he is I think the way he shows up with his expression was just so dreamy. I really do. That for me, like that was always like the final sell. It was like, how could she not? Come on. I mean, he's a long drink of water. You know what I mean?
I think that the focus on that relationship really gets stolen quite a lot from like right at the start in your very first scene when he turns to look at you and the look in his eyes, it's obvious, bang. It's very clear what he's thinking. So, whereas, your character just, like Albie says, it's a little bit less certain exactly what she's thinking until, he starts to show his vulnerability.
Yeah. Those Salvation Army ladies, man, they're, you know, still waters, right?
Maybe I should visit the local Salvation Armies. You never know.
I'm saying, you never know.
I want to come back to Quantum Leap and talk more about A Little Miracle, but after Quantum Leap, you've had such a prolific career. I want to talk a little bit about the things you've done after that up until now. Like I was surprised to find out that you were Dana Scully's sister on X-Files also. Like I knew your character on that show, but I had no idea that you were the same actress that played him. I just didn't connect it. So what's that like being on X-Files and doing those episodes?
That was very cool. I was doing a show called The Commish up in Vancouver and became friends with, at that time, it wasn't quite the Hollywood North. It was the beginning kind of that, of Stephen Kennel helped produce and helped, I think, build these studios up there. So we were doing The Commish and a couple of the writers went over to this new show, The X-Files. So when The X-Files came out, it was a very big deal in the television business. It was a genre-breaking show that shot like a movie. And so we would go visit, you know, we would go visit and could not believe what they were doing. Shooting on location, handheld stuff, you know, this incredible films, quality stuff. The lighting by John Bartlett was insane. And I was just like, I'm so in love with this show. So when she got pregnant, they set up, Chris Carter asked for a meeting with me, and I don't know if why I was kind of in his mind, or we had met maybe, and when Glenn Morgan and Jim Wong went over, they knew me, so maybe they suggested me, but so they came to me and talked to me about coming on as a temporary replacement for her as a visiting FBI agent. Great. And I said,
right.
That's great. You know, 5 episodes, 6 episodes. And then they realized, because I'm a redhead also, that it was a little strange. And instead of saying, you want to dye your hair or whatever, they said, okay, we're going to go a different direction. And here's trivia. The guy who was my boyfriend at the time had an audition, and we worked on the audition a bunch, and then he ended up getting it. It was Nick Lee, who ended up getting Krychek. So he was my boyfriend because he'd been on the so they wrote the Krychek character.
And he killed you.
And they came to me and said,
he?
how would you
Didn't he kill you in the end? Yeah.
But then they came to me and they said, how would you like to come on as her sister? And I said, great. And they said, what kind of character do you want to play? And I said, I want to play the opposite of her. Or made me more like Duchovny, make me a total believer. And so they made me a psychic. So I was so lucky that they wrote that part was written for me. And, you know, this is one of those situations where it sounds like I'm talking about old Hollywood, literally, but that thing about who you know when you work with your friends, I mean, that is true. When they talk about schmoozing, it isn't like going to parties and like, hi, it's your community. You start getting to know each other, trusting each other. And so that's how I was invited into that. So I got to work with Jillian, who I love and adore, and have been able to work with her since. We're not close, but every time we see each other, we're super happy to see each other. She lives in London now, but I'm so happy that she's gotten to do all these things because everyone knew that she was special, you know, and she was very young. I mean, she got that right out of drama school, I think. So it was great. It was super fun doing that show. All the crew were friends of mine already from the other show. And I loved it. And even after I died, I got to come back as a ghost because that's the X-Files. And the fans of the X-Files are amazing. They are really devoted. And, you know, it's still, I did it in my first ever convention. You don't usually do those things, but I did go to one a couple of years ago. Right before COVID. And it was so much fun. I mean, there's so many women who went into forensics because of that show. It was a really inspiring to meet them. And it was a great experience. I loved every second of it.
I watched Christmas Carol last night, the X-Files episode where you're in the flashback.
Yeah.
That makes 2 kind of Christmas Carol TV episodes so far. Were there any other Christmas carols you did in television?
I have a rather uncomfortably large amount of television shows that did not stay on for longer than 6 months.
Never made it to Christmas.
Including a lot of sitcoms where we shot Christmas episodes. I do not know whether they aired or not. I'll have to say I have so many things where we shot 13 and they aired 6 or whatever. So I'm going to have to think more deeply on that question. I will send you a missive with the answer to that question. I'll have to think back over the decades. Yeah.
I just want to say, going back to the point you made about Melissa and sort of being the opposite of Scully, and I love the relationship that you form with Duchovny so quickly because he's got that kooky side, she's got that kooky side, but in very different ways. And he's very clearly like, I have no interest in waving my hands over my friend's comatose body. It's just such a lovely relationship that you two spark off together.
Yeah, that was so well written, that he would be like accusing me of being woo woo.
Yeah.
And like mansplaining to me.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the things that I really appreciated. That it's like, yeah, okay, I see right through your BS. You're just protecting yourself, and you want to make this all science that you understand, and that you just can't. The lack of humility that he couldn't accept. There were things he couldn't understand, and so it was like, I will patiently wait for you to have your little tantrum. And you can either but while you're here in the world, instead of being between, why don't you step up and be like a man, be like a human being, and show up for your life, and you're not fooling anyone. I just love that they wrote her like she's kind of got his number.
Yeah.
But she's also someone, she's not going to interfere in anybody's, she's going to suggest, but not, yeah, I love my character. I think she was ahead of her time. I mean, she's just so, I mean, they gave her a lot of wisdom that I thought was cheeky, but smart, not just, I would not say she was kooky. I think she was pretty grounded, actually. I just think that she was comfortable with the mystery part and knew that there was stuff that, she was just getting out of the way of and not manipulating, but that's because I played her. So, I have to play someone totally on their side. So I don't usually use adjectives like that, but.
Well, you made your mark on it. I mean, I always forget you're only in a few episodes because you just seem to be so much a part of the early seasons.
Well, that's the writing, isn't it? I mean, they were very good.
It's the writing and the performance.
Well, thank you. But I think they're very good at creating archetype. Do you know what I mean? There's some shows, part of the reason I think it's survived is there's these archetypal themes that keep coming in, and that's super rewarding. Yeah, I mean, I think we long for that, in what we're watching. So that was really fun. Plus, Duchovny's he's very interesting to work with. He's very different than most actors. He's so dry. And so it forces you to find ways in to try to get to him, and so it was a perfect character for him in a lot of ways, He's a very, very, very smart guy, So it was interesting. It was an interesting experience working with him.
It's awesome. You worked with David Duchovny and Scott Bakula. You worked with Scott Bakula, besides on Quantum Leap, you worked on other projects with him. Can you talk a little bit about just working with him on many projects? What's that like?
Yeah, so a few years ago, I got to work with him on a show called Men of a Certain Age, which if you haven't seen it, it is completely worth watching. There's 2 seasons. You can stream it. I think it's also on DVD, but with Ray Romano and Andre Braugher and him as 3 heading towards 50-year-old men called Men of a Certain Age. So I got cast so Scott Bakula plays an actor who's kind of aging out in where he was wanting to be a leading guy and not sure he wants to do it anymore. So I played a woman that he ran into who had been an actress, but who now wasn't and who didn't date actors anymore. And they kind of start this romance. So it was so funny to us that the first time we met was my first acting job. And in the show, we had met on a commercial, on one of her first acting jobs. So we had a lot of fun. He is an extremely funny guy and a very warm, loving, supportive person. And he's the nicest guy in Hollywood. Everyone knows it. He's just a really spectacular person. But that show, Mike Royce is the executive producer, unbelievably talented. Sean Heder, who, just won the Oscar for Coda, was one of the writers. Just incredible writing and spectacular show. I was only in season 2. We were really heartbroken when it wasn't picked up, but no, he was so much fun, and we improv'd and we laughed so much, and it was really a treat. And then a couple of years later, a couple of years ago now, I guess, I went on NCIS New Orleans and played just a guest star, but was not the same as the role that I played for many years on NCIS, a recurring role as Mark Harmon's ex-wife. I also died in that show and came back as a ghost. So I have a lot of a ghost footage. I should just do a reel of just being a ghost. But I do.
Don't let yourself
have
take typecast.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of death scenes. Yeah, a lot of death scenes too.
So every time you and Scott work together, is it like, oh, we're doing this again? You know?
Yeah, sure. But of course that happens. It happens. I mean, if you stick around long enough, we're still standing, right? So you're going to run into each other. I mean, and it seems to be like those circles. I don't know. But he can do anything. He's done Broadway, of course. He has an incredible voice and can play the piano, and movies, of course. And I mean, he's a very, very versatile. And I wouldn't say he's underrated, because I think everyone knows, but I think he could do anything. Did you see him in the Liberace miniseries? Oh, he was so great.
I try to watch him in
American
everything.
Beauty.
Yeah.
I never miss him in anything either. So, well, your fans know how amazing.
A little bit. I talked to him on the phone. That's my lame claim to fame, I guess. That's what I.
It's more than I've done.
Oh, that's cool.
He's super nice, right? He's a really nice
so
guy,
nice.
right?
Yeah, he called me up. He was great. He gave me all the time in the world to talk to him. So he's a great guy.
I mean, what you see is what you get. He's kind of a lot like his character on Quantum Leap. Like, he's just this really decent, beautiful person. He really is.
That's awesome. It's good to hear that, because we've never heard a bad word about him ever. I think maybe from him once. That was about it. But so you have an amazing voice too. Just from this episode, we can tell, because you were singing those songs and stuff, the hymns, carols, whatever they are, around Christmas time. Did you ever do any other singing work, or?
Well, actually, when I was in college, I was double majoring in theater and African American music. I was interested in being a jazz singer. And then, and I do sing. I sang one of my husband's songs, Steve Pearson. He composed for a movie, a song called Runaway Child. So, and I love to sing. I have never really I've sung on stage, but I've never really been in a musical per se. But yes, I love to sing. I've never made my own album, but we had a band. My husband had a band for kids called Jambo, and we toured around, and I'm on both of those albums. And, so yes, I love to sing, but it's never been, something that I pursued separately, only as kind of something that I do as connected to my work mostly, but with these side projects. But, I would love to play a singer or in a biopic. Like, that would be super fun. I'd love to do a cabaret. I love to sing. I sing all the time, my poor family. Sometimes a little loud. But,
no, you have a lovely voice. A lovely voice.
Thank you. That's very nice.
You have an upcoming project. I think Seth Rogen's involved in it, producing it.
Yes, it is a very unique and hard to put into words project called Paul T. Goldman. It's going to drop on Peacock January 1st, the first 3 episodes, and then an episode a week after that on Sunday nights. It is the story, a real true story of something that happened to a guy, and the guy then wrote a book about it and tweeted at some directors. And this director, Jason Wallner, who directed the second Borat movie, picked it up and said, I'll make your story into a movie. And so this man, Paul, plays himself, and everyone else is professional actors in the story. So it's a comedy, documentary, drama. and genre breaking, very unique. And I'm very excited for people to see it. It's very cool.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one.
It's
that
not
one
for the kids. It's not for the kids. I would,
Noted.
No.
Yeah, 13 and up, for sure.
13 and up. That'll be good.
Yeah.
I love that. And we have Peacock already because we're watching the new Quantum Leap, so it's perfect.
Oh, that's great. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. I don't know if you want to cut that out, but he looks great.
Oh, yeah, he's really good. Nice guy.
He is.
Great episodes, great writing, great acting, so it's worth a watch.
And they kind of keep the original, they're true to it, is what I've heard, that there's like a really nice, like they're doing the fans, right. Yeah. Do you feel that way? Like it's fulfilling?
Yeah, it's got the same heart to it, that same optimism. And yeah.
It's hard, though, to replace those two. I mean, their relationship between, Dean Stockwell and Scott. I mean, they had so much chemistry. Dean Stockwell, what a guy. I mean, I basically was like, Dean Stockwell, any advice for me? And he goes, it's a roller coaster, kid. It's like, grab on, it's a roller coaster. He was so great. Oh, my God. Oh, sorry. That was the ghost of Christmas future. I hope not Christmas, not a bad future, but the good future kind.
The good future. What are some of the memories you take away with you from your time on Quantum Leap that we might not have talked about yet?
Sitting backstage, and I think, kind of observing how much time you have off between shots, and that actors, sometimes the lead actors go back to their trailers, but the guest actors sit around talking. And I think that was really interesting to notice, that it was kind of like theater in that way, that your downtime, the people that are there all the time, they've got to go rest, because it's really the hardest thing to do in the business that I've ever experienced. And I've done a lot of things. I've been in the business. I've been an actor, professional actor, 38 years, and in Los Angeles, 31 years. But I mean, what was it? 1991, right? When that episode was done, I think. But it's the hardest thing in the business is these 1 hour dramas. So it makes sense that if you're on it all the time, you've got to go and rest when you can. But then the camaraderie between you, the other actors, and the crew, it's like theater times 10 in terms of the amount of people it takes to make it. And some of my closest friendships over the years have been with people on the crew, because you're together. And when there's that cliche, oh, it's like a family, and everyone says it, and it sounds vague, but the reason is you're spending 12, sometimes 16 hours a day with these people, month after month after month. And you do become really close and have to trust each other. And so a lot of my memories are, becoming friends with like the hair and makeup people, and, making those relationships and understanding this, the kind of fabric of what makes the industry run, which is these people doing their job, trusting each other, and making, bringing their best to it and trying to make something that's going to be of value. And so it set up for me like a work ethic. And I thank Scott every time I see him, because he really helped me. Every day he would come on in a good mood. And one of the things that I'll never forget is it was our first day shooting. We were outside, like I said, and the cameraman said, "Hey, Scott, how are you doing?" And we were outside at Warner Brothers, and there was the sound studios. In between, there was the mountain range, the hills, and I think it was like August or something, but it was beautiful. And he said, "How are you doing? Good morning." He's like, "Well, morning to everybody," shaking everyone's hand. And this is like a few years into the show, right? And someone said, "How are you doing, Scott?" And he said, "I'm doing great. Living the dream. We're living the dream. Just look at this," and that was like his onset attitude. And I was just like, oh, like humility, gratitude, humility, gratitude. Okay. And, I've kept that with me. I try very hard to to stay in that mindset because, and he still lives that way. And I think it's one of the reasons he's so beloved. If there was, and I had people say this to me, and I agree with it, if there was an award given out in Hollywood for nicest guy and best person to work with, a lot of people would vote for Scott Bakula. It's just true. He's just a mensch. He's the real deal. Just hugely talented, generous, humble human being, you know. So I'm so blessed that that was the example that I saw. And it just like, I was just beginner's mind. I was just like, you know, a sponge, and it just went right in my heart and in my mind. And, you know, I have people coming up to me, people I met around that time were like, I'm a producer now, and you were so kind to me. I was a PA, and I'll never forget that. And, I saw him do that in action, and I really took it to heart. And I think that not everybody's like that. So for everyone who loves this show, like the heart you're feeling from him, like that is real.
I don't know if it's the time of year, but that's just made me feel so Christmassy and warm inside. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so proud of that episode, and I'm so glad people think it's a classic. And I'm, my daughter's never seen it, so I'm gonna get that one out and show it to her this weekend before we head home back east for the holidays. What are you guys doing? Are you gonna be? Are you traveling? Or are you staying put?
I'm staying put. My whole family's in this small house here, so yeah.
Oh, that's nice. And you're staying put too, Albie?
Yep, we're going to be watching Christmas movies and Christmas TV episodes that we watch every year, and doing some holiday baking, that kind of stuff. Opening presents.
Are you in New York, or you're in
Florida? I'm on the Southwest Florida.
There's a lot of Florida in this new show I was just telling you about.
Oh, really? Oh, Florida Man. Yeah, I know that guy. So it should be interesting. I think I saw a preview for that on Peacock. I think it was. Yeah. But it looks interesting. But anything with Seth Rogen involvement, I know it's going to be
interesting.
Crazy.
Interesting is the word. Watch. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. He's a trip. Well, I'm glad you guys don't have to travel. We are getting on the airplane really early tomorrow. But our whole family's back east. So, all our extendeds. So it's worth it to us. So we brave it and we do it, and got to see babies and everybody.
That's awesome. We really appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate you being a part of our Christmas rituals every year, watching this episode. And I think
that makes me so happy to think that people are still enjoying it. I can't tell you, you never think of that when you're doing something. You never occurs to you like that years from then people are going to look at some TV show. That is just very moving, and it's really sweet. So I'm so grateful you guys reached out to me. And if you have any more questions, I'm not going anywhere. I love talking about Quantum Leap and Christmas, two of my favorite things.
We appreciate you giving us the sense of what it felt like to actually be there and film this episode. So I think that adds to our experience now. So I appreciate it. And thank you for coming on. And we really appreciate having you on.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas, and lots of joy to your families, and stay safe. Happy Christmas.